Carl?
We'll call this continuation meeting to order. The Macon County Board of Commissioners would like to welcome everybody. We are in the middle of our budget meetings, and those of you that may be joining us for the first time, what we decided to do is have a series of meetings instead of trying to discuss our budget all at once. It's that thick because we've got two other books, a little thicker than that. And so it's lots to digest in one meeting, so we divided into several meetings. And so we decided tonight we would invite the Board of Education and as well as Dr. Duncan and Dr. Baldwin to come join us and talk about the school budget a little bit. We've met with you guys, I think this is probably the third time during the budget process, so I know you understand that the school budgets are a priority to us. Gentlemen, I do have one or two things I'd like to add to the agenda. If it'd be okay, we did get a request from Nantahala Volunteer Fire and Rescue. They have a fireworks display on July 5th. They said we need your permission to have the show. We want to have it on the 5th so that we don't interfere with fireworks playing with the town of Franklin.
So moving, Chairman.
So with that, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion second to allow Nantahala to display the fireworks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Mike, if you would take care of that. Anything else we need to put on the agenda besides the Board of Education?
Just one announcement,
General
Chairman.
discussion.
The VFW along with the, this is just the VFW, it's the Legion. I think the Legion is involved too. In the morning, they'll be raising the flag here at the courthouse at 10 o'clock. It is a hand-sewn, American-made flag. So we'd like to have everybody that can come out 10 o'clock in the morning. So just anybody that can come, Robbie, any of your folks that can come, let's have them. Then we'll be doing the ceremony of raising the flag, so we appreciate that very much.
Okay. Anything else? Other announcements?
Finance director's not here, and the Ridge is not here. She's in Raleigh with the intern that we were furnished with from the Rural Center and the local federal fourth grade union that sponsored the Southwest Community College. So they're in Raleigh right now, taking up. And so she's not going to be here tonight. She'll be back later this week.
Thank you guys for coming. If I could just make a brief statement, I think I'm going to say something we can all agree to. We realize the budget crunch you guys are in, but we've been there, understand it. I guess the reason I like to talk face to face is I don't like to talk through it, and our press does a wonderful job. I'm not saying they don't, I'm not even implying that. But we talk back and forth through newspaper article, I think things get a little misconstrued. So I want to state what I think we all agree to, and that is the current budget shortfall crunch that you guys are in is not the fault of the county. And I don't think you're saying that. Am I correct in saying that? I see the heads nodding, so I'm acknowledging that. There's budget cuts from the state, money that was coming from the federal government that's not, and then cuts that weren't made at the local level in past years. And we're not throwing blame, we're just stating facts. I think as long as we have that general understanding, I think, and now what do we do about it, how do we go forward? And I'm certainly supportive of education. I think everybody up here is to certain different degrees maybe, but we all support our school system, and I think that in Jack's budget message, he indicated the support that we've given about $46 million in buildings over the past 6 years and so forth. So I think that commitment's there. And then in a budget where we start out in January and we said to Jack, we're still in a recession, we don't want to raise taxes, so stay within that. And when his budget came back to us, he did that. And everybody's budget's either flat or it's been reduced except the school system. And you guys were up $10,000. About 3%. And I realize that's not what you guys asked for. I understand that's way better than anybody else did under the county's recommendation. So with that said, I don't think we have a disagreement about any of that. But sometimes if you read headlines and you go back and forth, it almost feels like there's a struggle between our two boards, and that, I don't think that's true. We certainly support education and continue to. And I personally stand and say I've always been a big supporter of public education in Macon County and will continue to be within the constraints we have of that. So, with that said, Dr. Duncan or Dr. Baldwin, whichever you guys want to take the lead, we'll go.
Appreciate the invitation.
Thank you.
I'll use my tablet computer here to inform you something. But first of all, we do appreciate what you've done. Just like anything else, costs go up. None of you are operating your businesses or anything at the same level that you operated 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You've been very consistent in giving money to the school system from the local, which is the way it's supposed to be done. You assess the tax rate, you do what you feel like is right there, and then we're the recipient of certain money that comes across to us as current expense. And we do have other income that we don't actually, it's pretty much in and out type of things like food service, which we don't supplement the food service account with any general fund at all. It may, whether it's been done in the past or not, that's not important to me, but it's an enterprise fund that needs to be operated that way. We operate our adventure campus going on this summer. A lot of kids benefit from that, but that money is tuition money. So we do have certain incomes that comes in. The county's been very consistent over the years in giving us relatively the stable amount of dollars, $6.9 million, maybe 7.1, 7 million one time, maybe 6.5. Everything is going up. Cost of living's going up somewhat. A lot, but some. You're not paying what you were paying for bread. You're not paying certainly what you were paying for fuel 5 or 6 years ago. Textbooks have gone up 100%. We don't buy many textbooks anymore, or we can't afford to buy. The state of North Carolina has done a very, very poor job of taking care of the school system at the public school level. They don't realize what we're going through down here at the local level. Obviously, my first year in North Carolina, as far as being, I've lived here for nearly 6 years, but as far as being in the, I guess, in the firing squad area, and I'm used to that. It's not the first time we've dealt with a lot of budget kinds of things, but some things are first for me, and I appreciate your diligence in listening to us, and I won't take long. Certainly, I can't answer every question you might have. I can try. Angie has been the finance officer for a number of years. She can answer the questions that you may have, and I invite those questions. It's the public's money. It's a public trust, and I value that very much, as you do. Many of you have beholden to the public for the positions you hold. I'm beholden to the school board that's beholden to the public, the position I hold. So we're all in this together. The number one factor that we have to look at is, are we doing the best thing that we can do for the education of the young people in this county? Number one, you want them educated. Number two, you want them to come back to this area to something. Number three, you want them to pay taxes so that they don't have to be taken care of by people here or who will succeed us in our positions. We started last year, and very quickly, and I know you probably know this, but we started last year when the school year began, about $550,000 in the red. And that was a product of different things. Number one, you approved the budget. You gave us $6.9 million of current expense, and that money was appropriated. We had a fund balance of nearly $1 million, and that money was appropriated. We also had a 1.2% that came across in salary increases from the state. We've had nearly a 60% increase in insurance payments over the last 5 or 6 years. Last year was about 6 or 7%. We had an increase in retirement contributions. So those things alone were not even accounted for in the budget. And so that cost us money. So we started behind. And I think the word was that you're all gonna have to help us out at some point during the year. If we haven't come to you, if we won't come to you, we're not coming to you. But we made up that deficit. We're gonna end up with, Angie said she'd write a check if we didn't end up, I'm not saying how far on the positive side, but I believe that we will end up on the positive side. We've got a few more days in the month. We still got to meet a June payroll because of the way the payroll is run out. But we've made up a lot of ground. Hadn't been without pain. Nobody in the school system can tell you that it's been easy. We cut. Every place we possibly could. We did not hire any teacher assistants back. When one left, they were gone. Every teacher position that we hired back, we tried to hire them back at a minimum salary with no benefits, and that's called an interim position, which means that they work at our pleasure. And by and large, they did what they needed to do. We were able to save a lot of money with it. We went through the budgets. We took money out of teaching supplies. We cut off every purchase order in February for local supply money. We took $37,000 out of the superintendent's budget account. We took $61,000 out of the software account. We took some $70,000 out of some communications accounts. And like I say, it has not been easy. But we're going to make up that deficit. Well, that's 1 year. So what have you done for us lately? I don't know. But we're not coming to you asking for any more money for this school year, but we are going to ask them for the next school year. We did cut, and I want you to know that. And we lived through a lot of reversion from the state. Preparing for this year, when we came to you very early in the year, we came to you with a 3% salary increase, which is going to mean that we were going to need nearly about $1.9 billion. Well, since that time, a lot of things have happened. We're now coming to you with the school board saying that they are prepared to take $914,000 or somewhere thereabouts out of what was a proposed budget. That means that we would not rehire at least 11 or 12 teaching positions that were in our staff this year. That means that we would cut some county office staff positions. That means that we would cut some high school positions. That means that we would cut paying for the referees at all the ball games. That means that we would cut out a number of things that we have proposed to cut. That we would cut some $60,000 out of software programs that we're using at the schools, that kids are using in the labs and this type of thing. With all that said and done, and with putting no salary increase in the budget, we're now asking you for $7,550,000. You have proposed for us through the county manager's budget message to you that we receive $7.1 billion. I'm not going into the dollars and cents, but essentially that's where we are. You also have in your budget approved for us, and I understand it has not been approved, but county managers presented you with information. There is a supplement that goes along with the county that the county gives to the school system every year. That's basically a 2% supplement that the county has given. It's not in any salary schedule, but we pay that out in typically October or November, and then we invoice the county for the exact amount of money that was spent. And that's been part of the budget for a long period of time. Because, as you know, our salaries, the salary schedule of the North Carolina teacher is terrible. You know, drive 6 miles and makes $4,000 or $5,000 more a year. And we're having people that are doing that more and more. But sometimes they don't come the other way. So it's very difficult. But you've been gracious. Some counties give no supplement. Some counties give $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 supplement. But Basically, hours amounts to about $808 on average for it. So the county manager has proposed that that still be a part of the budget. We've also been gracious in terms of capital outlay, things that we actually need. And we use that money wisely. We never spend it frivolously, just saying, well, we think we need to do it, we got some money. We provide an activity bus, that bus was delivered the other day. We're in good shape, activity bus wise. We've got that new bus, we're going to have to have it to replace the one that's there. This will come down here and get a spare. So you've been generous on that. Capital outlay, obviously we could always use money in that area, but there is a proposal in the current budget for, I believe, $199,000. The supplement that's been proposed in the budget is about 400, maybe 430, I think, I didn't specifically, it's about $430,000. And that represents, 2% on everybody's teacher and teacher assistants, the salaries. But here's the rub. Taking all that money out, looking at what we need to operate on the basis of keeping class sizes at a reasonable level and at a legal level. Well, the Senate proposed that we do away with class sizes. Just throw it open to the wind, however many you want to put in the room, put in there. There's some things said for that, saves the state a lot of money. But I'm not for that, and I don't think you would be either if you had children in there in those classrooms. Most of us went to school when we had 25, 30, 35 kids. But most of you went to school, and I did too, where I didn't really have to worry about whether the kid beside me had a pistol or shoots, or whether somebody's going to come in and tear our schoolhouse down or burn it down right around us. So we live in a different era. We can't handle as many kids. We have about 17% of our kids in our county need special services. We try to educate them the best we can in an environment that's sometimes good. So we need that money for that area. We do get funding from the state for our career pet programs. Fortunately, we're able to operate within the budget on that and not use earned expense money for that. Same thing with special ed. But once we take that money out, that we're proposing to take out, in order for us to not drastically increase class size, or to send, and we've got a lot of vacancies. Obviously, we did not hire back some 42 positions, but the majority of those were first-year teacher units. And anybody knows that you can't cut that many people out of the system. When you do that, you'd be cutting the middle school band program, you'd be cutting the MPI band program, you'd be cutting the physical education programs, you'd be cutting and moving these class size of kindergartens up to 28, 29 kids in the class and that kind of thing. So a lot of those positions, in fact, the majority of them, we need to hire back. And we're looking, every day, we look at the numbers. We look at the class size. We look at how many teachers. And it doesn't matter that the principal says, I need this teacher. If I can't justify the number of students there, and we've done this, and we could cut more at the high school. But I don't think anybody wants to go backward and say, advanced placement classes don't mean anything. They mean a lot. They mean a lot to the community, they mean a lot to the kids. But those classes are a little bit smaller, and you have to allow them. And so taking all that into account, we're asking you to increase the allocation by an additional $440,000. And that's kind of our bottom line. Well, can you cut one more? Yeah. But you get to the point where you just start feeling like that it's just coming down around you and you can't operate without that. It's been hard for the school board. I'm kind of an outsider. I'm tight as I can be. I understand physical management. I understand quality control. And I'm willing to apply any of those principles that we can to our school system. And I've been able to work with that for a period of roughly 12 months. But 10 days or so from now, I'm going to be history. Thank goodness I'm on the same. But you also don't have a school system. You're going to have those schools going to open August 26th. You're going to have a new superintendent of schools. He has the backing of the school board, and I think with you, being a local person, being in the community, and he deserves the opportunity to have some leeway to move this school system forward. Even by asking you for that amount of money, that's no fund balance. That's bad business. You know that, and I know that. You don't operate businesses without some type of fund balance. You don't operate your county that way. You don't operate your personal household that way. You don't operate business that way. I don't like to operate the school system that way. And it does not account for anything that the governor might do between now and June 30th. The governor proposed a 1% raise in his budget. The Senate proposed that they do away with the reversion, which was good news, but by the same token, they voted not to appropriate that money back. It won't be called reversion, but it'll be called takeaway from somewhere else. It's like, well, this bucket, put it over here and then take it out. So that didn't make a whole lot of difference to us from that standpoint. But the House has not passed the budget. They proposed to do that in the next week, 2 weeks, sort of guaranteeing us that they'll be out and gone home by the 30th of June, which is good news. They're out of town. They're in Raleigh, we don't know what they might do. And they'll be out of town. And we'll have a budget for the state. If that budget includes a raise for employees, we're not accounting for that. We have to try to either lay some more people off, try to find that money, because you don't have an option. And it's like we didn't have an option this year. And what we did, we went into red, and then we played a catch up and dig out all year long. I hate to see us have to do that again for another year. We know there is an increase in utilities. Obviously, we don't know what Duke's going to do. We do know that the rate increase they imposed previous to this is in place until they decide to do something else. But we put a 9% increase in our utilities there. But as far as anything in this budget that's an expansion or an enhancement of anything, it's not there. But, so, I mean, I feel like we've done all we can. And we're asking for your help. We're asking for additional amount for us to use in the return expense account. Obviously, we'd like for the supplement to stay and for you to grant us the additional $400,000. So we understand that money is money, and it doesn't grow on trees, and there's basically not a lot of sources, except that people just run in here and start buying stuff, and sales tax goes up, real estate goes up, and at some point in time, you exercise your authority to impose a tax increase. Obviously, that brings in more money. But those are things that are without our purview. Was some bill in the legislation to allow school boards to have taxing authority, and I think we would welcome that, at least for 1 year. And then when reality hit us of what faces you every year, then we wouldn't have been so quick to do that. But we do know the source of the funds, and I do that. And I'm, like everybody else, a resident of the county, and I'm property here, and love the situation, love to live here. But I'm just saying, we've done all we can at this point to bring this thing out and just try to get it, get all 4 wheels on the ground and moving forward. And we need some help. And with that, I'll just kind of, I don't have a whole lot of stuff to say, but that's it. And questions individually that you might have that school board members or Angie, a specialist, and she's sitting there with the figures in front of her, knows some of the history behind some of that. Probably more appropriate for her to answer those questions, Mr. Chairman, than for me. I mean, I can tell you some of the reasons we did some of the things, but she can specifically give you some information.
Not for nothing, I didn't introduce the school board members here, Chairman, Mr. Jim Breedlove, glad to have him step in the call. Representative Sir Highlands area, Mr. Gary Shields is over here, glad to have, I don't believe we missed anything.
I know
Glad
we,
you guys are here.
you know, we have some citizens, we have some teachers here, and we have some, Dr. Baldwin will be coming on board in a few days, so, I mean, I guess it's your prerogative, the floor is open, but we're here for you to ask us questions, for you to get information, and you have whatever we've given you, and you've been gracious to allow us the time to talk about it. So thank you for that, and if you want to ask any other questions, or me or anybody else,
Gentlemen, any,
I'll sit down, and then we can direct it however you want to direct it.
Okay. All right, any questions? Start down there.
Let's go ahead, man, let's check out on the real estate.
Jack, do you want to sort of review, let's go back to the start. I know we gave 6.9 million, and then that was in,
Yeah, back in 08, 09, that's about the year that the economy tanked on everybody. And that year, our appropriation, county appropriation in the school, current expense was $6,911,000. And it remained that for the next fiscal year, 9 and 10, and then 10 and 11 was reduced, like everything in the budget, reduced by 1%, 1% across the board. It dropped down to $6,750,000, and stayed that for 2 years. Fiscal year 10, 11, 11, 12, and then this current year we're in right now, 12, 13, it's brought back up to the $6.9 million. And then the proposed budget that we're looking at now increases that by 3% up to $7,118,000. What we've seen is some other funds that have been managed, and county appropriation has been pretty level flat for the last half dozen years, I might say. There are some other funds that may have gone away, some other special funds that come in from time to time. We've seen a big reduction in that from different various sources. I don't have all those to get into detail, but for the first, probably 5 years, that additional fund included the appropriation for teacher supplement, solid waste fees, some timber fees, and maybe some state funds and some federal funds from here and there. But 07, the fiscal year 07, 08 up through probably 11, 12, all those additional funds averaged about 1.8, a little $1.8 million a year. We're looking at this next year, only about $700,000. So that's a severe drop. Some of those revenues that Angie's been working about it to see where those are, and I'm not sure she's been able to get all those answers yet. She may have some of them. What we've also seen along this same time was two things happen. One of them was the stimulus funding that came out in 9, 10, 10, 11. There was some additional money that came in from the federal government. It was only for a 2-year period of time. And I think probably what happened, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, or Dr. Duncan, is that I think some of the state funds were complaining about some of the stimulus money, because we've seen some decline in some of the state appropriations. And Dr. Duncan mentioned this earlier. What the state has been doing the last few years is giving you a planning allocation of around $25 million, plus your other ones that you have. So the planning allocation is $25 million, and then shortly after the beginning of the fiscal year, they would say to the local educational administrations, find another $1 million out of that $25 million and revert it back to the state, so you only want to have $24 million. And as you mentioned earlier, they may want to stop playing that game, but they're not going to increase the money. So instead of getting 25 million and reverting $1 million back, they're gonna give you maybe 24 million to start off with. You gotta figure out some way to do that. State funding has been, going back to 07, 08, around 25 million, then it went up to 25.8, then 24.2, 23.9, 24.9, and 24.1, and we're looking at maybe this coming year, actual reversion or whatever the appropriation is, around 24.4, probably, is what we're gonna get from the state. So that's been up and down too. I think during the time the stimulus money was available and had to be spent on various expenditures, which increased the total local current expense budget. And in order to maintain those additional expenditures and increased expenditures, the school board then elected to through the administration or whoever, to appropriate some fund balance, continue to be able to fund at that level. The budget went from, in 10-11, from $8.7 million in total local current expense, up to just under $10.2 million. In order to fund at that level without additional county funds and without additional state funds, the school system decided to appropriate $1.6 million out of its fund balance, which is at that time somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million. Then in the year that we're in right now, the 12-13 year, that trend has continued, and we look at the budget that was approved by the school board that appropriated the rest of the fund balance, $1.137 million, in order to maintain that level of spending. The problem now is that there's no more fund balance involvement, and the state is not coming up with any additional money. And the only way the county come up with any more money is to just consider some sort of tax increase, and we're still in a recession. And so this is a call for money. So it's not policy of the board, and I certainly would never want to second guess what the Board of Education and the superintendent priorities are in spending. I think that's what the elected officials on the school board and the staff have more expertise on that than the county does. Our goal is to try to come up with as much resources as we can within the limited resources that we have. And hopefully the Board of Education and staff can figure out some way to provide the programs. One of the problems that we've seen, not just in Macon County, but throughout the state, is that the appropriation from the state sources has been going down gradually every year. It used to be that when you look at local school budget, no matter where it was, that the state was probably within maybe 70-75% of the local current operating expenses. And the federal government put in 5 to 10%, somewhere in that neighborhood, and the rest of it was coming from local resources. What we're seeing now is that state percentage has gradually gotten down, so it's just around 62 or 63% now of your current expense, local current expense. And so with percentage going down and expenses going up, every school system is pretty much caught in the same situation. I think Dr. Duncan has a chance to talk to some other folks throughout the state, but they were probably dealing with the same situation that we are here. It is a tough situation. That gives you a little bit of background on what we've had over the last 5 or 6 years. And in this year's budget, we tried to figure out some way to come up with a little bit more money within the resources we had, and we came up with about a 3% increase, which is, Dr. Duncan said, on local current expense, $7,118,000, plus the salary supplement, plus just under $200,000 for capital outlay. And then the county also pays for garbage pickup, or solid waste fees, or whatever, and we get a little bit of money, 10% from the Forest Service. And the Board of Education gets some money in fines and forfeitures and so forth. And they get a little bit of money from grants and so forth like that. But as I said in the budget message, at that time we were a little over $1.3 million between what was in the proposed budget and what the school board had to cram down their request to, and to generate $1.355 million to $1,355,000. no other sources available, the only option you have is what tax law can have. And that's in the budget passage that we presented back to, and Highlands here recently. But it's a tough situation, and it's not a situation, I think as the chairman said earlier, it's not a situation of the school board versus the board of county commissioners. But basically, the county commissioners and the school board are trying to work together to find a solution to keep the schools operating. If we had the state to step up and fund it at the level that we think it ought to be funded, it wouldn't be a problem. But I don't see that happening this year. And so our dilemma is this: figure out some way to raise additional revenue, cut deep into the expenditure side of the budget. And that's, we've been through this, and we've had not only the joint meetings with the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Education, we've had meetings, staff meetings between Dr. Duncan, Dr. Ball, Angie, myself, and our staff, trying to work together to try to figure out some way to deal with the situation. And we don't have a crystal ball or a magic wand to solve the problem. And so that's where we are. It may not be that we can come up with any more money. If that's the case, then obviously the board will have to figure out some additional cuts. If there are funds to increase the school budget, we're going to have to make sure that they are sustainable, that they're not one-shot funding, because if you fund it for 1 year, you're right back to the same situation you are the next year, unless you've got a recurring source of revenue to pay for it. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how much more I can tell you about that, but we've given it a lot of time and looked at it, and we're just in a situation now, we're just going to have to head out there and see what the will of the boards are, and then after the budget's approved, whatever that might be, try to live with that. Agreed?
Maybe I'm confused. So 31 teachers, 31 first-year teachers will be laid off. Is that right?
At the present time.
And then 11 more, or so on?
Let me, if I can, Mr. Gill, look here, and please ask Angie for some of the details too. But we were overstaffed by a certain number of teachers.
Do you know how many people you've hired since 08? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Who would know that? Where they at? I mean, is it been 10 or 50? Has it been at least 31? We know it's been 31.
Not 50 yet, it's probably been, yeah, it's probably been.
Yeah. So, now, various positions, but when we looked at all this thing and said, for staffing, I mean, this wasn't universal. This is me saying, boys and girls, you're gonna have this fewer teachers. Because our number of staff people for the number of students we have is probably greater than most school systems. Well, and that's a tribute to being able to fund those positions. But now you can't fund them. And so we're saying we can't do it. Of the 31 first-year teachers that were laid off, there will be positions, or most of those, through designations and retirements. But that would not put us down 31 teachers. We have to, for example, we have, I'll just give you one easy to relate to. You've got, say, 3 positions in Nantahala School. You can't walk down the hill without those 3 teachers. I mean, they see students every day, and somebody's got to teach those kids. So therefore, you've got to hire them back. Now, most of those people that were laid off in terms of the probationary teachers, if they hang around, and hopefully a lot of them will, would be able to come back and work. If we get the $440,000, the majority of those would come back. The vast majority of them. And we still have to look at some of our enrollment figures, and instead of that being 11 teachers to absorb, we might be able to absorb 13 or 14. Just because our kindergarten enrollment right now is the lowest it's been in years. when you look at class, and when you look at that and appropriate a teacher, I mean, I'm not one to just say, well, you had 5 first grade teachers for the last 5 years, you're gonna have 5 again. No, you get the teachers based upon the kids that are in the room. Numbers. We try to average, county average, we try to average 24, and we never are above, the state law is not a problem for us because we have some situations where there are very classes in some of our schools. But, Mr. Beal, I know it's a long answer to something, but if you saw fit to appropriate that money, most all of those teachers would be able to be re-advertised, and in a matter of a few short days, could be reemployed. The majority of those people. Now, some of them wouldn't be because they were going to leave anyway. Their situations changed and they moved out of town, or they got another job or something like that. But if we don't come up with that in some way, shape, or form, we've just about been out to do the cuts in areas where we can't really, you can't cut utilities because you're going to have to keep the lights on. You're going to have to pay the fuel going down the road. Now, the state helps us some with that with transportation, but like I told you before, they give us $3.29, we pay $3.79 or whatever that. I mean, they don't give us enough money to operate our transportation system 100%. So that's where we are. That's where we are with those teachers. Now, the interims that we've hired, those are people that we are actually cutting positions in the school system, which is 11 to 14 positions that we will cut. Now, some of those teachers who we call interims, they will apply for jobs that are open. We had 2 or 3 today, so when they're not coming back, they're moving to Texas or wherever they're moving. Well, we'd like to be able to replace them. And that's why we're asking for this additional money, to bring those people back on board. Because, see, some of those are state-funded positions and all of that. And Angie does a great job. It's just very technical that we place the lowest paid teachers we can on the county side of the funds. And Mr. Horton's exactly right. 5 or 6 years ago, you might have been paying 19 or 20 teachers. We're paying 54 teachers out of local. Last year at this time, we took 19 teachers and moved them to the local because of the reversion. We moved them, I mean, we didn't like to do that. How could we move them? Well, it's because we had a fund balance that had been appropriated and some of it into the salary area. We can't move them now. We don't have any fund balance or anything to fall back on. And that's it. So, Angie, if you need, I can ask her for some of the specifics on some things, but that's what that will allow us to do. It will allow us to bring those people, at least to give them an opportunity to apply for open positions. And we have a lot of them. We probably have, right now, probably, I don't know, 18 or so positions that were set aside because of retirement and resignations, maybe 20, maybe more than that. That we will need to hire to replace just to get us back where we need to be. But again, we're going to be in dire straits if we have to go back into that budget, and that's why the people of this county elected school board to work with the superintendent to do that, because it hasn't been easy. And I think any one of them can tell you that the hardest thing they've had to do is to say, superintendent, you've got $915,000 out of our budget, and we agree with it. If you don't think that one hard, you ask any one of them. And that's.
I don't know if I've said it publicly, but you came in, and I think everybody realizes you weren't looking for a job, you were looking to be retired here, and you came in a real tough time and made some tough decisions, got the school board through some tough times. I think they appreciate it, and I can tell you that I personally appreciate it. I think we've done a super job at leading the school system this far. And I just wanted to say something, Dan, you probably agree with me, or Jim. I think it's, maybe the,
But I answer your question, Mr. D, or at least start.
oh, yeah.
I can take a lot of time to answer and get you off track.
Well, that's okay.
That's not what I want to do.
I guess the elephant in the room is the state, and remember back, Jim, 2 years ago or 3, I think part of the thinking and part of the discussion, remember that went on about the fund balance was, gosh, if we don't have enough money to meet our current obligations, hopefully within 2 or 3 years, this recession will be over and the state money's going to come back. And that was sort of part of the discussion. I know during that, if I recall correctly, and am I right or wrong?
Short side of that maybe, and I think that was part of the consideration that they.
And that had happened when we were still in the recession and the state had increased funding. And so here we are. And I don't know what we can solve tonight other than I can say if we can find some additional money within our current means, I would certainly consider that just one for your way to do all or part of that, move toward that, but I don't think it's realistic to think we can make that the entire deficit that the state stuck with, it's just not. And that fund balance was able to. And that's, our friend Les back there, we talked about fund balance a lot. Part of the fund balance with the county is it's remained fairly steady, but there was a $3 or $4 million fund balance in the school system. It's no longer there. That's gone. So the only fund balance they've got is, guess what? Yeah, that's it. So there's $3 million less in fund balance in Macon County between the school system and the county than it was 4 or 5 years ago. I think that's something folks
Andy,
don't
you have
forget
anything
about.
to add to what Mr. D was asking about runs, personnel situations and the dollar amounts and this type of thing that have been used? The bottom line is that we have not been through a reduction in staff in a long time. We're at that point now. We've done that. We've done, that's where those 12 or 14 positions are. You know, that's why we're here today to say that we know we're gonna have to do without that. I mean, I don't see us unless you have to have a particular person to drive a school bus with a handicapped child. I don't see us hiring any teacher assistants this entire year. I don't see us hiring any clerical person the entire year. I mean, and not hiring any more teachers if we can get these back on board, not increasing anything in terms of personnel. And get it settled, like I say, all wheels on the ground and get moving so that next year maybe you can generate a little fund balance through some savings. We whacked it out this year pretty well. I mean, we started out like we should. We'd be saying to you, thank you for the 6.9. We've got 400,000 or 500,000 we can fall back on. Everybody's life's good, everybody's happy, but we can't do that.
And Jim, assuming that the state does give the 1% pay raise, that would cost the school, what, about another $158,000, $160,000? $150,000. So really and truly, if that should happen, that would be on top of everything else.
Did I clarify that for a minute? If you said a 1% pay raise, that's for everyone. But the county appropriation for current expense only covers a 4%. So it wouldn't be the entire school system, just the ones that are paid to local current expense.
And it would depend on, after the budget's passed, and what we get from the state, it would depend on how many actually are on local at that point. And that's a number at this point.
You should estimate about $150,000 it costs the school system. That's what we have to come up with some total.
Dr. Johnson, let me ask you, when you started speaking, you stated that we were overstaffed. You didn't say how much, but I'll ask you that in a minute. You stated there were 31 first-year teacher positions that would be cut and 11 more, making that total come up to 44. You said that there was 18 which would be retired, making a deficit of 26. So if you were overstaffed to start with, how many would you be overstaffed?
In my position, we were overstaffed by 11 to 12 teaching positions.
Okay, so.
And so when we made the school board, and we worked together to say, what can we cut? That represented about $460-something thousand of cuts right there. Now,
Okay, if we're overstaffed, are we overstaffed? Do we have a deficit of 26 teacher positions?
right now, what we're saying is that there were 41 people that were laid off.
Everyone
And 11 or 12 of those were laid off as a result of being overstaffed. So that brings us down to roughly 28 to 30 that we're saying that we need to put back to work because they're teaching kids. And without increasing class size, we can bring those people back. And we can bring them back to the extent that you grant us that $440,000.
Okay, so in that equation, there would be a deficit of 13 positions. Okay, if you had to do without, well, this may be a trick question, but you couldn't answer, so I think you could. If we had to do without, could somebody, whether it be you or anybody else in here, tell me what the class size would be without those 13 teachers?
State, I'll be honest with you, I
Okay.
can't specifically answer that because it varies at the various levels. Because we could go into the high school. They've already got their schedules for next year. And we could say to them, you need to operate with one less math teacher, you need to operate with one less English teacher. That would, Paul can tell you exactly what we could do, but it would increase the class size. We're running about 30 in most of our math classes right now. Okay? We would do away with the advanced placement because that's a low number. We have teachers that are teaching, because only certain kids take those classes, and that may be 12 that take statistics, 14 that take calculus, 15 that take advanced placement English or history. So you do away with those classes, and you're able to put, the teacher can teach more kids. In the elementary school, you bring that number up to 26 or 27 in the 4th and 5th grade classes. So every time you bring the class size up, for example, you bring it up across the county, 5 kids in the 3rd grade, we have approximately 350 kids in the grade level. It's not an easy answer to yes, you would have to increase class size, and you would go to other areas, because at some point, you would be talking about program cuts in areas of extracurricular things. For example, I'm not suggesting that you'd ever do this, but if you made a decision that you were not going to have a band program at MVI or at Macon Middle School, you've still got the kids. Somebody's going to have to teach them that period. So you increase the class size to everybody else, and you do without those 2 positions. But those are vital to our community. I mean, those, yes, they're extra.
So are you saying that we would increase each class by about 5 students and 13 teachers?
Probably on an average of that. So instead of having 22 in a kindergarten class, you'd have 27. And you would further reduce.
What is the average size right now of all the children in the top? Do you know what the average size would be?
In the whole system,
The whole system?
about 1 to 16.
1 to 16.
Now, keep in mind that you've got some classes with Navajota School that has,
One teacher for 4 different grades.
right, and you may have 6 kids in that grade.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, okay, you give me an average of 16. And if there was 5 additional, would average in the whole system 21 kids. It's going to average in the whole school system. 21
Yes,
kids.
mathematically, that would be an average.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
That's, is that teachers and students?
That's
Yes,
what I'm
now,
asking.
see,
That
that's-
doesn't count the fact that your teachers have a planning period, they have 0 students in that.
Class size, when you increase the class size on average, I mean, you've got some classes in some schools that if you strictly went on a class size average, you could send 8 or 10 or 12 more teachers home. But what are you doing in destroying programs at a school? I mean, in some schools, you would have no vocational classes whatsoever at all. It just, and I don't know that you want to do that, you know, at all.
I'm just asking.
Yes, well, our county, and I was telling you, class size, for our county is a challenge because you've got 100 kids. Chris, how many teachers are at About 16 teachers. You got 106 kids. 16 into 106 is what? 7 or 8. So, when you pass that up through the whole district, see, that's why that average comes to 16. So I've got 30 in a class at the high school, or 31 or 32, and I've got 8 at another school in that same class. That's 40. That's an average of 20. But it's hard to be realistic that the average means anything if your schools aren't relatively the same size in every area. That's where our challenge is. And we ask the state to help us. We asked, the legislation was introduced in the Senate to give us, the state to fund us 1 teacher per grade level in Navajo School. It didn't go anywhere. I asked in the first reading, sat over there somewhere else, never introduced in the House. And so, that's a long answer. I'm sorry for spending that time, but I'm trying to be honest with you to say, yeah, if you look at our average, I mean, you look at the number of teachers we've got in the county, you've got 4,400 students. You take 370 teachers divided into 4,400, you get down here. It's not a big number, but it's
But on average, every classroom would increase by 5 regardless of what that is overall. That would tell me if you less 14 teachers.
That wouldn't be uniform,
no, it wouldn't because you couldn't do that uniformly.
You get all the students on one campus like they do in Clay County.
Right.
That would work.
Yeah.
That works on their kids. They've got all of them, but you've got kids in different schools. The math's not gonna work. So on average, I think your average.
Right. So if you had an elementary school that had 15 students, 15 teachers, you increase the class size by 5 there, then you could probably do away with 1 or 2 teachers. You could do that if the enrollments were level. Because you can compare South Macon and East Franklin, about the same size. I mean, you can take Cartouche and you can take Hollow Valley. They're about the same size. Highlands is entirely different. Navajo is entirely different from that. So that's why, just to say, to increase the class size by 5 students across the district, yes, it can save some teaching units, but some of them you can't increase them. The students are not there to do it. Sorry it takes so long, but
Chairman Corbett, could I expand on that just a little bit, being from Highlands representative?
Sure.
In Highlands, we might have a very, very small class size, like the AP, any AP courses that we have, or in any of the, even the CTE programs. But, for example, my oldest daughter just went through there, and she would not have had some of those programs. She would have not have had the availability to get into colleges that she needs to. And if you want to do it by percentages, our high school probably does as much as Franklin does. But it might only be 4 or 5 students in that AP class. So it does make it difficult, but we desperately need those classes to offer that to our students. Need that to be able to get into the colleges. My daughter just found out yesterday, she's one of 10 that got into the architecture program in Clinton. I can promise you that she would not have had that availability to get into that program without some of the classes that she took. So, and then some of these teachers he's talking about, it's not even about, I'm 15 here, 15 here. Some of them are a PE teacher that you have to have. It's not all, it's not uniform at all, but there's so many, in Highlands, there are so many classes that do not have enough, per se, that you would to be average. But I feel like the students have that right to have that education. And that's the only way to get it is 1, 4, and 5.
I think that's the same problem as an academic program.
It is, but
But your problem is your reimbursement formula is based on average class size.
yeah,
And
you're
at some point, here we are this year in a bind, next year's probably not gonna be any better. And I'm not into school management, that's, by no means am I criticizing, I admire watch out with their station managers and all these papers she puts out there, a while ago with the information overload she gives us. But thank you, Angie, thank you, Dr. Duncan, Dr. Baldwin, but at some point, how do we address, we're talking tonight, what are we gonna be talking about a year, 2 years down the road? And yeah, you don't wanna lose those programs. There are children who want to excel, and they're in your advanced placement or back in my honors classes, but how do we address that in the future? Is it class consolidation? I don't know. I don't think we need to be worried about just this year. This year's bad. The next few years could really be great.
Can I address that, Mr. Hickey?
Yes.
While we can't get into personnel issues in terms of what we're doing, this school board is not just looking at teachers, I promise you. We're looking at all levels of our operation. That's in central office, that's wherever, and there are going to be some changes made. So, one of the things you're asking, I understand your concern, but I promise you next year, we won't necessarily be exactly in the same position we're talking about today, if that makes any sense. We're aware and cognizant of where we need to be, and there's going to be some other changes that we made. It's not just in teacher ranks. Sometimes I'm thinking we're leaving the impression that's what we're talking about, but I promise you, that's not the only area that we're looking at.
That gets the highlights, that gets the headlines.
Right. And unfortunately, that does get headlines, but we're not paying any attention to headlines.
Yeah, I'm not accusing you of
I know that,
anything.
you're not. But I'm just trying to give you the reassurance is that we're aware that there's other areas that need to be looked at. And so, well, I'm not disagreeing with your statement. I guess I'm trying to reassure you. I don't think we're going to be in the same situation next year that we are right now.
Based on,
some other things that we're planning on doing.
okay, not economic. See, yeah, and I know y'all, just want to put it that.
and it's hard to plan ahead because until the state of North Carolina recognizes their fundamental responsibility to fund the education process like it should be funded, they're going to have to change the way they're doing business and allocating teachers and that whole system has got to change. It probably won't. There's always going to be a certain amount of money. There's always going to be people that want more money. But this school system is biting a big bullet right now, and we're going to have to bite them. Bill just said, the state passes a raise, somebody, we go back in. I mean, I gave the school board a lot more cuts than they have made. Now, those cuts included, some some schools. Macon Early College is going to have to operate this year strictly on the grant money they get from the state. They're in an innovative high school, new high schools program, a great program, I mean, wonderful program. Got a representative here that's in that program. So, but we can't supplement it. I mean, we're at the point where we can't do that. Right now, they can operate with their state grant money, and I think with pretty much with the state grant money. I mean, we're operating Union Academy. Close that whole school down, and they go back to various schools. They go back to the middle school, they go back to the high school. But when you have some incorrigible young people who can't behave, they can't be educated along with people who need to be there. Well, when they go out on the street, the first person that comes to us and says, can you help us a little bit, is the sheriff. Because he don't have the space to lock them up. Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to drop out, they're going to wander the streets, and they're going to be burdened to this county. So that school is serving a useful purpose for kids who have major problems with getting along. And we get some state money for that, and we supplement a little bit, not much. But you're looking at major kinds of cuts. And you get into things that people like. You get into things like athletics. You get into things like band. You get into things like coaching. You get into all of those kinds of things that people say, well, we've got, how many sports we have, Chris? 32? At the high school alone, right now, for 32 sports. We pay $225,000 a year for men and women to work with those kids. I mean, do you want to say, no, we can't do that? The answer, I don't think you want to say, no, you can't do that. But it is difficult. You've got difficult choices, and it's hard to make. And the state maybe will give us some more money at some point in time. I mean, it's not, I know you have a low tax. If we had the same tax rate as Clay County, it'd be $10 million more for us. But those are decisions that are not easy to make. I can, being an elected official, I know that you don't have the luxury that some people have. So, just hit the button, raise the rate. It doesn't work that way. There are lots of things that go into that. But we do have the lowest tax rate in the state. And our ability to pay is considerably higher than that. All the studies show that. So, again, as Martin said, that's something we have to consider. And there are some things that you've already put in the budget that we may have to consider. These supplements that we give out every year. If you said, well, there's no more money, but you've got some supplements in there, take that money and put it in current expense. We could do that, that'd be fine. But that wouldn't be a supplement anymore. I don't know that you all pass that. A lot of people wanted to do that because some counties give no supplement. But you're saying, yeah, we know the salaries the state provides, why do you do that? I mean, the teacher comes to work for us, they work 4 years, they don't get a dime raise. But they do get that little supplement all the time. And, that's, if you said to us, hey, we can't give you more money, but just take the supplements and use them this year, or we'll give you $200,000 and you take the supplements and make it 1%. Or if you said to us, look, can we reduce the capital outlay thing to $199,000? Hey, we want all that. But if you said, no, we're going to take $25,000, $30,000 out of that, it's a lot easier to get along without some things, trying to fix something, patch it up, heal it over for another year, than it is to try to operate 30, 32 kids in a classroom. So, that's what we're sort of saying. I don't want to say too much, but I'm just saying that there's room in there to look for those dollars that have already been given to you by the county manager. But you would have to make some decisions. You would have to make a conscious decision to do away with supplements for teachers in this county. The school board can't make that decision because that's money that's appropriated to us. We give it out, yet we send, we don't give out money we don't have.
And so, in respect to that position, I can tell you where I stand with that, is that the only way I would reallocate money, those line items, is question about the school board. I think that's their call, having sat, Commissioner Freeland is. I would want the county commissioner, my feeling is the county commissioners need to say, here's how much money we can give you. You guys are elected by the same people we are, the same people. So you've got to make those decisions. I think what we have to decide is if we find any more money, or if we want to find any more money, then if we can, we do. You guys need to decide where to spend it. And I respect that decision. I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't think, I would not feel comfortable dictating where they spend it. I think that's
At the present time, we have not, I can't speak for them. I don't think we have felt, I don't think we have felt that has been something that we could say this year. I mean, it's hard when you look somebody in the face and say, we don't want you supplement. When you're saying no to teachers, that you're not going to get that money. But we're going to use it. For example, if we did that this year, we'd be saying, we're going to use that to bring back those 30 teachers that we need in this system, and they don't need to lose a job. And that's what we've been doing with it at this point. So, Stephen, I know Mr. Clayton may have some questions for Angie that we need to, she can clear up technical stuff, and we.
One other thing to ask you this, now, when you say position, you're talking about physical bodies.
That's correct.
So a lot of times that gets skewed. When you're talking position, you intermittently say teachers on position, we're talking 42
Right.
bodies.
Yes, when we talk about the 11 or 12 that are in our proposed cut, we're talking about people that are sitting there teaching kids today that will not be in the system position-wise next year. In other words, I mean, when I leave, I will say to the board, don't hire another person. If you've committed to the county that you're going to cut 12, don't go in there and rehire and then come back and say, well, we needed to rehire. The only way you need to rehire those is if you had a sudden increase in enrollment. It's flat not going up. It's going down, if anything. And so there may be room to do that. So we don't, if and when, and we do, if we cut positions from the county staff, there need not be an expectation that somebody sitting out here that always wanted to work at the county staff is going to get a job. You cut a position, you cut it. And then at some point down the line, if you've got to have that position back, you've got to justify that in some way, shape, or form. And I think personally, everybody we have is needed. But I understand that hard times are hard times. I'm willing to take the heat for some of that hard times.
I just got one quick item. I think we touched on everything else very extensively. And that is that one of the things that jumps off the page again is some of the subcontractors, some of those amounts, how often those are looked at, or how often they are renewed. But my suggestion would be just to take a peek at those, and if it's something that we renewed for 5 or 6 years, 3 years, that's my opinion. I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Right. Angie, you need to speak to that some of our subcontractors.
We do try to get them out. We do the janitorial supplies and things like that, or try to do it, but it is automatically renewable. Most of our contracts that we have are automatically renewable. So unless there's a particular problem or something we have not been renewable, we can definitely look at that and see what we
When you look at some of those amounts, There's some big ones, there's one there for
That sounds like a copier contract.
Copier
That's the
contract.
copiers for all the
There's some
electric.
maintenance contracts in there, what you're seeing, I mean, in the business, it's in the bigger economy.
The copier contract is far less, I believe, than it was last year.
I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick, I'm just saying, I don't know how often it has been rebid, but some of those you might want to cover.
That one just got redid last year, actually, the copier.
My answer to that is I support that. I think we ought to look at every bid, and as you can tell, I've aggravated to death about that. About why are we paying this? Then we see what we're getting for it, and if it's a good deal, I mean, we have a contract with a particular company that takes care of, let's say, our football. Well, in addition to that, the initiation of that contract was to give up some custodial positions that were at the high school at that time, not like years ago, Shields was here, I think, but far beyond just what might physically be in that contract. There's a lot of cleaning, a lot of other duties that are assigned out of that by the person that are operating the contract. If we're not getting the best bang for the buck, we should bid our auditor services. Well, we started to do that. Well, the auditors came back, they know that we can do that. We got a better price than you're gonna get from most audits, which are based on school system our size and this type of thing. I think we got a $2,000 reduction just by saying, we'd like to rebid this, but that's a $37,000 contract. And
That's not the only, just not automatically written. And let me answer something, I'm not going to ask for a vote on this, but the consensus. I feel like if whatever amount of money we decide to give you, we're giving you so much current expense, capital outlay, so on and so forth.
But I'm also a mother and a taxpayer and a school board member and passionate about what we need in our schools. And we need some help right now, and I truly believe our leadership coming up, and I cannot say good enough about Dr. Duncan, what he's done, but Chris Baldwin is going to continue to be there and continue, and I think he's a long-term superintendent for us, and he's going to have a great relationship with you guys, and he's going to look at some of these things, like I said, contracts, everything we can. But he's not there yet. We need you guys.
Thank you. Mr. Breedlove, anything else?
If you don't mind, I'm not going to keep you longer. I do want to echo what you said at the very beginning, Mr. Chairman. There's no adversarial role, but anything going on in these two boards. I'm sorry if that impression's been left with anyone. We as a school board are just thankful for what y'all have done. I mean, anybody that thinks otherwise, they'll come and see me and I'll try to set them straight. I hope we've answered your questions. Hope we didn't step over. I hope you understand what I was saying. We're just trying to answer all your questions because we understand you're the source of what's coming. We do need some money, and if you give it to us, that would make things wonderful. But I'll look at you and also say, if you do give us some money we're asking for, we're not going to stop there. And Mr. Aiken had a very valid point to ask, are we going to be sitting there and say, oh great, we got some more money, what to do with it? No, we understand that. We have to continue to look at everything that we're doing and where we can save costs, we need to cut that. And I promise you that's what we're doing. I mean, the headlines just stated about teachers. Well, I'm going to look at you again and say, that's not the only area we're looking at. I promise each and every one of you, we're looking at the complete package. Chris, I looked at Chris there and said, are you sure you still want to do this with me? He said, oh yeah, I'm in for the long run, so that's how it works. And thank you, Mr. Corbin, for the final thing, kind of stole my thunder. One thing I was going to look at y'all and say, if you do fund what you give us, we're most appreciative, but please give us some leeway. For example, we'll be the bad guys, if I hate to, maybe that's not the correct way to say it, but if we have a supplement and we need to use it elsewhere, I think most teachers understand, and we will be the ones to come back to you. I hope you'll understand that we're not staying on the web, come back, it's nice to know that we can, in fact, we need to designate where that needs to go to, so we really appreciate that flexibility. All right, and I think, and that's, thank you, that's one thing we came here tonight to explore, so thank you for your consideration. It's taken longer than we probably should have. We appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done, and we're looking forward to working with you. I think it'll continue to be a very good relationship as we go forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Kelly. We are We're a team, we're locked arms, we're moving it together. So
I mean, I agree with that, I think it's gonna be, but it is not a short-term type of thing. I just, I know the school system's gonna continue and they're gonna do well. I mean, the test scores and all of that stuff, I mean, that won't be coming in until October. Yeah, they probably are gonna go down because the whole test has changed and the whole world has changed, and things are getting harder and all like that. We used to give a few tests, we gave over 2,000, I think, this year. Yeah, about 7,000 tests that were given during the time. They're measuring teachers on student progress. The Senate is talking about doing away with tenure for teachers, which means that on a performance level, the students in that class doesn't grow over a year period of time. You might have been teaching 25 years, but you're going to be going out the door. I mean, that's where we're going to. That, the Senate says no more tenure. No, nothing. 1-year contract, performance, that type of thing. So the world's changing. Charter schools are coming down the line. We pay $70,000 a year right now for charter schools, and they're not even our county. But the law says you have to do it.
So more is proposed.
Yeah,
More money is proposed.
and more money is, yeah, for them to get further into the dollars rather than into the current expense. They'll get our transportation, food service money and everything else.
Let me ask one final, main question. If we spend millions of dollars on computers, so that every child can take a test on a computer, why do we not get the results back till October?
I wish we had a good answer for you, and we'd be glad to give them to you, but I don't think we do.
The actual reason is this: when the state changes a test, like they changed every test this year, you give the same test, say, for 5 years. Scores go up. Teachers know what's on the test, kids begin to learn, and they teach what's on the test, which is no problem with that. I mean, you know, if you're taking a test to learn some type of operator's license, you study the book, you expect to be tested on that, not some other book. So they take this test, okay? The state has to get all the scores in, and they have to go back in the summer, and the State Board of Education has to approve what they call cut scores, or our terminology was the curve in high school. You know, what it takes to make an A or a B or a C. The state board doesn't meet on that till the middle of the summer. Once the state board agrees on what those scores are, then they go in and recalculate all of that and then send it back to us. It will happen every 3 or 4 years. Next year, it won't happen that way. You will have the scores immediately because the cut scores are already in there. So about every 3 to 5 years, when they change the test, it moves that window because of the State Board of Education having to approve what's called the cut scores, what it takes to be proficient, what it takes to be advanced, what it takes to be a major, I guess you'd say. So,
You said not done that building, but they haven't not, so big they've lost the test score?
no, I'm not saying that at all.
They have to send
I just wondered.
Yeah, they send
Have you ever seen the education building, right?
They have to send it
Have to do with that.
Yeah, just wondering.
If you do a paper and pencil test like we've done, it took us, they have to send it to Raleigh. Raleigh has to put it in a package. They have to send it to Minnesota. They have to get it scored. They have to send it back to Raleigh. They have to send it to us. I mean, we're fighting a losing battle on that. But, I mean, I'll tell you, our technology department costs a lot of money. But I can tell you that if it goes down, you've got to have it fixed. Because in essence, we'll be in a position next year where you're not able to operate, give a test with paper and pencil.
The technology we improved wasn't to send test scores to Raleigh. We spent money because we had 9-year-old computers in the classroom. Am I shaking your head if I'm wrong?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
We had 9-year-old computers. You couldn't deal with a 9-year-old computer, your business didn't get out. So,
Hot one.
not my
But
business.
next year, that should not be the case. They should be back the day after. In other words, right now, some tests, that we score them and we get, but we don't know, I mean, we know exactly what we've done in our county, but we don't have any comparison to any other place in the state because that particular score, what it takes to be advanced, proficient, or not proficient, has not been decided. Only got to be decided by the state board. They don't meet until they have their regular meetings. I'm not running that show down there. I'd say, look, it's June, we got test scores, let's score them and go on.
Angie, can we start while it's summertime, putting all the numbers together from Highlands and Nanahaven and start preparing our case to try to see what we can do with that? Yeah. And that's gonna happen, when we read your, I believe that's gonna be the,
They can almost give you that.
well, if we can put that together, where we can have a little sit down with some folks.
We had the local bill in the Senate side. It didn't go very far. We were promised an introduction in the House side and we never got it. We made phone calls, we had a school board member personally asked for that to be done and was told it will be introduced, and it never got introduced.
Let's go down there and start.
Yeah, we have to go down there and study it and
We can push.
And Ronnie Bill's really good about it.
Well, you were wrong.
We've got a meeting.
I'm on the wrong end of the stick now, but
We've got a meeting in August, it's not Raleigh, but we'll be seeing this a lot of the same people.
oh yeah, that'd be.
We will get the information to you.
Yeah, we'll start.
I'll
Y'all
take
little
that,
enough
you
us
don't
to be there.
think
Well, y'all have to, and it may be that some of y'all have to go with us, to make the case. We can get funds from folks. I think going ahead of us, and you have these cuts, that's gonna be the key. I mean, we need to have those numbers, and it should be, it's not fair to us, it's not fair to the county, it's not fair to the school board of Children in Macon County. Period. So we gotta have the money, and we've got all this, we've
Chairman, I
gotta have
think
things.
all your time, and unless y'all have any message, we're gonna
Just
leave
ask
y'all.
you anything else, Mr. Freeland. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, Dr. Nutter.
Welcome to superintendent job, Dr. Bob.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
I've got one key to the office and he can have it.
Before we break, let me suggest this, gentlemen, I wanted to give an opportunity for the board to ask any other questions about any other part of the budget, and then decide where to go from here. But why don't we recess for 10 minutes, we'll come back and make that decision and see what other business we've got. Is what our total gift to the school system is from the county. If you guys came back and said, we want to reallocate this money, I can tell you, I would be receptive to that. Do we have a consensus that we would do that? I think Dr. Duncan sort of asked that. You know what I'm asking? Not talking about any money. If they came back and said, we want to move some money around within our budget, we would be willing to do that.
There is a management. We fund, y'all manage.
I think you got to, that's another thing. Yeah. So,
Just one comment, I think going ahead, is looking at the state and public education is under attack, there's no doubt. I mean, that's fact. Anybody that supports public education. But I think going forth in the future here in Macon County, I think what you said earlier, Dr. Duncan, and what Dr. Bob said, I think we're going to have to try to run another local field. I think that Highlands, I think we're now down to only 2 K-12 schools left. Is it still on? Is it still going? You sure?
I watch it down.
I watched it down, no, they're not.
Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge is not K-12.
I don't think Mr. Bill at this time, I think it's still there. I think we have 2 of the 3. There's 2
Yeah,
states right now.
Coach is changing that.
It could very well be, but I think as
It
it
won't be
right
lunch
now.
long, I think we're only 2 left in the state.
We do need that deal.
And we need a local bill, it's special funded, but by that, it needs to be run and run. But that's what's going to have to make a difference as we go forward. I mean, because those kids in those 2 schools, and Stephanie's exactly right, they deserve whatever the kids are getting in Franklin High School. They deserve it, and they're part of this county. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is by another funding formula for those 2 schools. And to get anybody at the state to look at that, I don't know how you do that. But it'll have to be a local bill, right, Mr. Manager?
Yeah, that's true. It
It'd be
would
approved by the House and the
because that's a
Senate.
unique situation. The other things I would point out too is that of all the school systems, there are two other sources of funding from the state that we don't get. That's low wealth school systems and smaller school systems. They get additional funding from the state that we get none of those schools.
That is an issue, and I know you probably know that, but the cutoff is 4,000. You look at appropriations bills all up and down. You have less than 4,000 students, you get a special allocation. That's a small school. Now, we get an allocation for small. We get 2 teacher units for the whole county, because we're small. 2. I mean, you're looking at some people that own the surface. If they have 4,000 kids and we have 4,200, they have about $1.5 million more dollars in the hand than we do. And if they're low wealth, it's another $1.5 million. So we're standing here with the same number of kids, say, as Transylvania County or somebody like that. They're sitting there with $3 million more dollars in their hand to operate with. I mean, if you gave us $3 million more dollars, you talk about it.
Be all right.
I wouldn't spend it all. You know, I'd put a bunch back. But that's what we're faced with. And a lot of people don't realize that we are so close in every funding area. It's not just schools, you're close in every area of funding when you're trying to base it. I mean, we just get shut out on some of the special funds. One of the sources, I'll quickly tell you this, Mr. Horton didn't bring it up, but there was this thing called E-rate that you apply to the federal government to get money back for your phone systems and all of that. We've done such a good job, you've provided us with the technology, that we have worked ourselves to the point where we used to get 163,000, that we're going to get 60 next year. I mean, that's hard work, and what do? We get $100,000 supplement for it. You know, but you don't go back and say, well, let's just throw out all that and start over again. You know, we're in a situation where we operate every single day wondering right now if we're going to be able to pay the bills. Angie's done a heck of a job, and we have squeezed every dollar. I mean, and there's some next to it. We've shut it down. And, trying to shut it down even more till the end of the year. Whatever you can do, of course, we'll appreciate it. You may have some options to say, hey, here's the money. You do what you need to. And the reason we want to move as quickly as we can on something is that we've got people waiting out there. We've got jobs we need to be advertised for. Some of those positions are absolutely needing to start the school year. The majority of them are. We've not liked anybody like to stay there just for another 2 weeks.
Or longer.
Or longer. But if we know that we're going to get, when you add it all up, if we're going to get this amount of money, then that's what we operate with and we go forward. And then if the state comes up with a raise that we have to fund, then we have to come back to you and say, we told you that, and we, always going to come back to you and ask for a lot more money. I'm going to do that. I appreciate your time. I know we're taking.
The only thing I would like to say is too, when you ask questions, it leads public to all of these non-appointments. I stated at the last meeting we had over there at the bank building. One same thing, what you say, I can't get a kid in this county. It's like they're forever. So basic education out there in the boat. And I know 3 weeks ago, me, Commissioner Bill, and Chairman Courtney went to college. The school system is one of the things that's high priority in our minds. We need to ask lots of questions. What Senate does down there, we have no control over. And I don't have to say that you know that that's what's coming from. And they've got to make a decision on how much they pay. We've got to do the best we can to make it work. But it makes it look like we're doing wrong. So a lot of people, they think we're running me. And I say, you want to vote for people? I don't want to see a position cut for a teacher. I don't want to see a job loss. I'd like to see all. did say that we worked hard to do the job. But, anyway, I wanted to make a statement. I don't know if I was asked those questions out there, but I just didn't know what was happening.
You have questions?
Can I just finish that thought I have? I was just gonna say too, you know, Corbin was asking about the future too. Well, I feel like if we don't, and I feel like I've always, whenever I have come to you guys, it's always, eventually I hope the economy is so good in these meetings that I'm not always begging you guys to continue to give money to the school system. But if we do not continue to give some of these programs, then our schools are not, when they don't have them, these people, parents choose to go to private schools and charter schools. And then our future does get worse because whenever we lose students, we continue to lose money. I mean, it's just the same as money. And then we talk about if you give us enough, less money that we have to take a supplement from our teachers, then we have possibility of losing some of these great teachers because our surrounding states give them more money. We're one of the lowest paid teacher salaries, 46 I believe in the United States. Is that your fault? It is not. But I'm still coming to you and saying you are our only funding way to come. There's no other way for me to. If you allow me, I would try to get out there and fundraise. I've done it many years.
Did y'all pass a resolution asking for not to take the revisionary money? Did y'all have passed, did the school board pass a resolution asking the state not to do that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, I'm not quite sure.
Did you pass a resolution asking the state not to ask for no money back? Or send it to the state? Did you do that?
And I've also talked to every taxpayer, it doesn't matter where I go, whether we do a job site, anyway, they're talking about this, and I'm saying, you know, they're asking about, you know, supporting education, but I'm also saying, talk to your state too, because state is, you know, is where we're starting with this. I mean, I'm not saying the commissioners did this to us, they didn't get our money back first. But please, you know, whatever you can do to address the state, we need our taxpayers to be doing that. And I know you guys have been amazing in these buildings, and I'm forever grateful. I know Howland School desperately needed what you were doing out there, because you walked in there and saw that they were coming out of those hallways and floors. I mean, I'm thrilled to have that bond. We needed that, and I'm grateful. But, and having said that, we still need teachers in this building to make a big value. And so thank you for always what you're doing, but I know I'm very tired. But I'm also a mother and a taxpayer and a school board member, and passionate about what we need in our schools, and we need some help right now, and I truly believe our leadership coming up, and I cannot say good enough about Dr. Duncan, what he's done, but Chris Baldwin is going to continue to be there and continue, and I think he's a long-term superintendent for us, and he's going to have a great relationship with you guys, and he's going to look at some of these things, like you said, the contracts, everything we can, but he's not there yet. We need you guys.
Thank you. Mr. Breedlove, anything else?
If you don't mind, I'm not going to keep you longer. I do want to echo what you said at the very beginning, Mr. Chairman. There's no adversarial role, but anything going on between these two boards. I'm sorry if that impression's been left with anyone. We as a school board are just thankful for what y'all have done. Anybody that thinks otherwise, they'll come and see me, and I'll try to set them straight. I hope we've answered your questions. Hope we didn't step over. I hope you understand what I was saying. We're just trying to answer all your questions, because we understand you're the source of which it comes. We do need some money. And if you give it to us, that would make things wonderful. But I'll look at you and also say, if you do give us some money we're asking for, we're not going to stop there. And Mr. Aiken had a very valid point to ask, are we going to be sitting there and saying, oh, great, we got some more money, what to do with it? No, we understand that. We have to continue to look at everything that we're doing and where we can save costs, we need to cut that. And I promise you that's what we're doing. I mean, the headlines just stated about teachers. Well, I'm going to look at you again and say, that's not the only area we're looking at. I promise each and every one of you, we're looking at the complete package. Chris, I looked at Chris there and said, are you sure you still want to do this with me? He said, oh yeah, I'm in for the long run, so that's how it works. And thank you, Mr. Corbin, for the final thing, kind of stole my thunder. One thing I was going to look at y'all and say, if you do fund what you give us, we're most appreciative, but please give us some leeway. For example, we'll be the bad guys, if maybe that's not the correct way to say it, but if we have a supplement and we need to use it elsewhere, I think most teachers understand, and we will be the ones that come back to you. I hope you'll understand that we're not staying on the web, come back, it's nice to know that we can, in fact, we need to designate where that needs to go to, so we really appreciate that flexibility. All right, and I think, and that's, thank you, that's one thing we came here tonight to explore, so thank you for your consideration. It's taken longer than we probably should have. We appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done, and we're looking forward to working with you. think it'll continue to be a very good relationship as we go forward.
Appreciate you, Cal. We're a team, we're locked arms, we're moving in together. So.
I mean, I agree with that. I think it's gonna be, but it is not a short-term type of thing. I know the school system's gonna continue and they're gonna do well. I mean, the test scores and all of that stuff, I mean, that won't be coming in until October. Yeah, they probably are gonna go down because the whole test has changed and the whole world has changed. And things are getting harder and all like that. We used to give a few tests. We gave over 2,000, I think, this year. Yeah, about 7,000 tests that were given during the time. They're measuring teachers on student progress. The Senate is talking about doing away with tenure for teachers, which means that on a performance level, the students in that class doesn't grow over a year period of time. You might have been teaching 25 years, but you're going to be going out the door. I mean, that's where we're going to. The Senate says no more tenure, nothing. 1-year contract, performance, that type of thing. So the world's changing. Charter schools are coming down the line. We pay $70,000 a year right now for charter schools, and they're not even our county. But the law says you have to do it.
So more is proposed.
Yeah,
More money is proposed.
and more money is, yeah, for them to get further into the dollars rather than into the current expense. They'll get our transportation, food service money. And everything.
Let me ask one final, qualifying question. If we spend millions of dollars on computers, so that every child can take a test on a computer, why do we not get the results back till October?
I wish we had a good answer for you, and we'd be glad to give them to you, but I don't think we do.
The actual reason is this: when the state changes a test, like they changed every test this year, you give the same test, say for 5 years, the scores go up. Teachers know what's on the test, kids begin to learn, and they teach what's on the test, which is no problem with that. I mean, you know, if you're taking a test to learn some type of operator's license, you study the book, you expect to be tested on that, not some other book. So they take this test, okay? The state has to get all the scores in, and they have to go back in the summer, and the State Board of Education has to approve what they call cut scores, or our terminology was the curve in high school. You know, what it takes to make an A or a B or a C. The state board doesn't meet on that till the middle of the summer. Once the state board agrees on what those scores are, then they go in and recalculate all of that and then send it back to us. It will happen every 3 or 4 years. Next year, it won't happen that way. You will have the scores immediately because the cut scores are already in there. So about every 3 to 5 years, when they change the test, it moves that window because of the State Board of Education having to approve what's called the cut scores, what it takes to be proficient, what it takes to be advanced, what it takes to be a major, I guess you'd say. So,
You said not coming back to build, but they haven't not so big they've lost the test score.
no, I'm not saying that at all.
They have to send
I just wondered.
Yeah, they send
Have you ever seen the education going wrong?
They have to send it
Have to do with that.
Yeah, just wondering.
If you do a paper and pencil test like we've done, it took us, they have to send it to Raleigh. Raleigh has to put it in a package. They have to send it to Minnesota. They have to get it scored. They have to send it back to Raleigh. They have to send it to us. I mean, we're fighting a losing battle on that. But, I mean, I'll tell you, our technology department costs a lot of money. But I can tell you that if it goes down, you've got to have it fixed. Because in essence, we'll be in a position next year where you're not able to operate, give a test with paper and pencil.
The technology we improved wasn't to send test scores to Raleigh. We spent money because we had 9-year-old computers in the classroom. Am I shaking your head if I'm right?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
We had 9-year-old computers. You couldn't deal with 9-year-old computer, your business didn't get out. So
But in
Pipeline.
Not my
but
business.
next year, that should not be the case. They should be back the day after. In other words, right now, some tests, that we score them and we get, but we don't know, I mean, we know exactly what we've done in our county, but we don't have any comparison to any other place in the state because that particular score, what it takes to be advanced, proficient, or not proficient, has not been decided. Only got to be decided by the state board. They don't meet until they have their regular meetings. I'm not running that show down there. I'd say, look, it's June, we got test scores, let's score them and go on.
Angie, can we start while it's summertime, putting all the numbers together from Highlands and Nanahaven and start comparing our case to try to see what we can do with that?
Yeah.
And that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. When we beat your, I believe that's gonna be the,
They can always give you
well, if we can put that together where we can have a little sit down with some folks.
We had the local bill in the Senate side. It didn't go very far. We were promised an introduction in the House side and we never got it. We made phone calls, we had a school board member personally asked for that to be done and was told it will be introduced, and it never got introduced.
Let's go down there and start.
Yeah, we have to go down there and study it and walk it
We
through.
can push.
And Ronnie Bill's really good about it.
Well, you were wrong.
We've got a meeting.
I'm on the wrong end of the stick now, but
We've got a meeting in August, it's not Raleigh, but we'll be seeing this, a lot of the same people.
oh yeah, that'd be.
We will get the information to you.
Yeah, we'll start.
I'll
Y'all
take
little
that,
enough
you
us
don't
to be there.
think
Well, y'all have to, and it may be that some of y'all have to go with us, to make the case. We can get funds from folks. I think going ahead of us, we need to have these cuts. That's what will be the key. I mean, we need to have those numbers, and it should be, it's not fair to us, it's not fair to the county, it's not fair to the school board of Children in Macon County. Period. So we gotta have the money. And we've got all this, we've
Chairman, I
gotta have
think
things
all
put in.
your time, unless y'all have any message, we're gonna
Just
leave
ask
y'all.
you anything else, Mr. Freeland. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, Dr. Nutter.
Welcome to superintendent job, Dr. Bob.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
I got it, I've got one key to the office and he can have it.
Before we break, let me suggest this, gentlemen, I wanted to give an opportunity for the board to ask any other questions about any other part of the budget, and then decide where to go from here. But why don't we recess for 10 minutes, we'll come back and make that decision and see what other business we've got. Thank you, guys.
Thank everyone of you very much.
Mr. Beal is requesting, item question address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, in your budget, the county manager did put a line item in for the community care clinic for Franklin. If you'll turn to that, which is on page,
It's $10,000.
it's $10,000. The request was $50,000. Let me tell you where that comes from. Mr. Higgins, certainly, John, because he was at the initial meeting and we followed up with him. The Franklin Care Clinic, and Linda Tyler is the chairman, and she's going to come and talk to us. And she has some guests with her that she'll be introducing. But I think it's important that this board knows exactly what Franklin Care Clinic is. We have one in Highlands. We have that represented with us tonight too. They'll speak to Highlands. But Linda's going to come and make a presentation, give you some information. But here's what Linda will tell you. Is that when Franklin started, had it not been for the Highlands Clinic, the Highlands Free Clinic, which, by the way, a lot of people are going up the mountain to go to the clinic from Franklin. So we started one in Franklin. Without the help of the Highlands Clinic, it would not have happened. And they have basically given it the underpinning it needed to be successful and continue. But now Highlands can no longer do that. So when Franklin started, you got to know this, that the Franklin people that was involved were mostly health people, clinicians, and they was not fundraisers. So the fundraising never really got took off because once it opened Franklin Clinic, they were overwhelmed with people. And you'll hear a lot of numbers and you'll hear some things, but what it basically looks is almost 5% of the Macon County residents, so we've got them broke down, however you want to break it down, and certainly Ms. Tyler can talk about that. Visit the Franklin Wing. And it's important, but it needs a base. It needs a base. At that meeting that Ms. Higgins and I were at, we wanted to approach the board about looking at the budget and putting $50,000 this year and $50,000 for the next 2 years. And that's it. And stop the speaking. We all know we just got to be talking about a little bit more money than that. But as far as direct impact in the health to Macon County citizens, and Linda has a lot of information to give you on that. For the health of Macon County, there's probably no more direct impact than the Franklin Clinic provides. It is a voluntary clinic. You have people who are dedicated. You have a board who's dedicated under the direction of Linda Tyler. You have people here that speak to it, that diligently work in it. You have doctors in this community that diligently work there twice a week. And it does our over program. And that shows you the state where we are at in our healthcare system. No matter what happens in healthcare, you're still going to understand it. And it's an important factor, and not that that's a small amount of money. It is not, Mr. Chairman. But I'd ask the board to consider that, and after Linda's presentation, that would be just one more thing for us to consider. So at this time, I'd like to ask Linda Tyler if she would to come forward. And the welcome.
Thank you here.
I appreciate the opportunity to come up and speak tonight. And I am going to hand out something because you're not going to remember statistics, and I'm not going to come and tell you all this statistics. So let me just these out. And also one of the sheets. That's just, that's our new brochure. It has some of the statistics of people we've seen, who they are, and a little bit about what we're doing. The second sheet gives you sort of an overview of what we're doing for fundraising, where our goals are, what our activities are in fundraising presently. As Commissioner Beal said, the first 3 years we've been busy, trying to keep in place, trying to keep the clinic going, seeing a lot of patients. In the first 3 years, we saw over 1,700 people, different individuals in the clinic. And in 2012, we saw over 850 individuals for a total of almost, almost 1,700 visits last year. A total of 850 patients, as I said. The people that we see are low income, uninsured, primarily working either part or full time. About 80% of the patients are working part or full time. The majority of the patients are female. A lot of them, as you know, probably take counseling. And the average age is about 41 of the patients in the clinic. 94% of the patients that we see are from the Franklin area. And by that I mean the 28734 zip code approximately. For those of you from Chicago and places like that. The majority of patients we see in this clinic don't live in Highlands, and now that the Franklin Clinic is open, the majority of patients in Highlands are not from the Franklin area.
And the Franklin Clinic is where?
It's operated out of the health department. We operate 1 or 2 evenings a week. And that the number of evenings we're able to operate really is determined by the clinical providers, the doctors, volunteer doctors, and mid-level providers. We have them to be able to provide medical services.
And
We also
just,
have,
if you look at more into the budget, it's not under special appropriations in the health department budget.
Okay.
Under general fund expenditures on page 50 of the health department budget, so it's not into the other one. But if you're looking for it in your budget document, that's where it's located.
Okay. I just wanted to
Money to it.
Okay.
and we come to you today, as Commissioner Beal said, to ask for $50,000 from the county to help provide these services so that we can continue to keep this clinic operating. Our patients are, neighbors of yours who maybe have diabetes, that lost his job a few months ago, isn't able to see the doctor or purchase his medication so that he can stay well and be able to work. maybe the woman that sits behind you in church that has high blood pressure and can't see the doctor and afford her medications because she just lost her job, but she works a minimum wage job and can't afford insurance. And if she doesn't get that medicine, she will have a stroke. And then she's maybe got children that have to be cared for. So these are our neighbors. These are our church family, some of our relatives perhaps that are needing these services. And we do want to continue to provide them and help them to be able to continue to be working members of our community and not end up unable to work because of these health problems that are preventable a lot of times. Okay, sorry. Lost my train of thought. The support that you can provide will help us to keep the clinic going now and to continue to develop the broad base of support that we need for this clinic to continue. I mean, the clinic needs about $130 million a year to operate, to provide all the services that we provide. And to raise that money from civic groups, church groups, philanthropic organizations and grants that they can provide, individuals, that whole gamut of people locally and outside of our local area so that we can continue to function. It takes time. It takes time to write grants, and you have to really find out if you're funded. It takes time to develop fundraising plans that we can get a lot of people involved in and make sure they know about it so that they are willing to donate. A lot of people kind of are going, is the clinic going to make it? Do I want to put money into something that isn't going to survive? We need to make sure we can prove to them that this clinic, which is very important in our community, has got enough support to continue so that those people will be willing to open their personal office. And the Highlands Clinic, because it's been operating for 7 years now, has developed that kind of support, both in their community and through some larger grants that they've been able to obtain. And it'll take some time for us to get there, but we think we'll be able to do the same thing so that we can continue to operate going forward.
What kind of waiting list? Do you have a waiting list now?
Yes, thank you. I think Franklin, tell me if I'm wrong, 4 to 6 weeks, I think?
Yes. Let me introduce, why don't you introduce Frank?
Yes, sorry. Franklin Ingram is our clinic director. He's been with the clinic since last fall. And he is the first person who's not been also the clinical side, the nurse that's also seeing the patients and following up and making sure they get the medicines. He's here to actually do the administrative things and to publish the fundraising, grant revenue, that kind of thing. I also have Jerry Hermanson, who is our treasurer for our clinic, and is executive director, is that correct, for the Highlands Clinic. So he's very familiar with how things have been able to operate in Highlands, and he's invaluable to us in terms of his knowledge and grants and how you get supplies and everything you can imagine that he's doing for years, I think.
It's like Gus Wilkie, if you read what Gus's words, Dr. Gus Wilkie wrote his physician volunteer that, we don't know how much savings downstream just when you account for. These people up in the ER. And this is like the ladies' night out and the men's night out that we work with through the health department. This, if it's all comers can come. And, my wife volunteered at the clinic, and it's one of those things that when we talk about the school situation, this is another area where, you can account for your money, where every dollar is spent.
The Highlands Clinic was first,
Yes.
and then how,
Sure, why don't you come up?
educate me a little bit on the time frame.
Okay.
This is the
best
history,
person.
right?
Yes, he
Yeah.
really is the
No,
best
if I can
person,
help.
and I didn't do that.
I apologize, I haven't been to the county commission lately to give you updates on the clinic. I used to do that. We started about 7.5 years ago.
Four of the five of us have been here 2.5 years or less. So,
I see some long-term.
it's on the-
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that. We had the good fortune of having some initial grants from some large organizations like Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation that helped us get to the point of developing that broad-based numbers. So 7.5 years ago, a group of community leaders got together from both South Macon and South Jackson County and said, we know we need a plan here. The Health Carolinians organization from the health department had done the 2003 survey saying that one of the most important things was access to primary care, primarily for low income people. So they used that, they did some local research and it looked like they could do it. So we did that 7.5 years ago. What we found, and then almost immediately after we started the clinic, we had people coming from Franklin saying, hey, we'd like to start in Franklin, can you help us? So we worked with 3 different groups trying to get them to organize and develop the clinic. Because we knew that people weren't able to get up the mountain all the time. The clinic is 10.9 miles from the overpass by Byron up the river. And we also are beneficiaries of the county in that we use the ground floor, or we call it the basement of the concession stand at Zachary Park, which is a great facility that the county finished off for use by the health department and social services. We get to use that for free, and we really thank you for that. But what we found was that the group down here, when they got to the point of, okay, we need to get the money now to put in place to start it, that's where they weren't able to succeed. And we found a grant possibility with the state of North Carolina 3 years ago for expanding capacity for primary care. And we went ahead and applied for that, and we're able to get funds that covered most of the operating costs for the last few years. So it started the company, as we said, the health department. And it's been a violent success that members are pursuing. Interestingly enough, probably between 10 and 20% of the patients that are seen at the Franklin Clinic were seen at the Highlands Clinic. 80+% of the patients being seen at the Franklin Clinic never were seen at the Clinic. They just didn't get there. And so they didn't have that option. I don't want to keep going on. It's one of my passions, and I can talk forever on the clinics. Why they're needed, but they really are needed. In the clinic here, and I'm as treasurer now for the Community Care Clinic in Franklin, we have a board that understands their role.
This is the second year?
No. We finished 3 years.
3 years, okay.
We're on the 4th year. The Highlands Clinic had taken monies that were raised in Franklin and kind of put it aside for the Franklin Clinic. And from January of this year through now, we've been using those funds and some other money out of our reserves to keep the clinic running, with the idea that the clinic is then staying on its own. The clinic to be successful, frequently has to have broad-based community, local community support. And that's what they're working on now. It's just not there. The churches are starting to come around, and the are starting to come around.
You've got, just again to educate me, you have usually health partners through no rent. There, the physicians and people are donating time, so the money's not for that, it's for medical supplies, I'm assuming, vaccinations,
we have
bandages, those.
We have 3 part-time individuals, including Franklin, who work at the clinic to make sure things are organized and ready to go on. The other work things are we have 2 mid-level providers, and that's either nurse practitioner or physician assistant that we pay for the clinic to be there to make sure we have someone there. And then we have volunteers, doctors, nurses, individuals that help check people in. We have interpreters. About a third of our patients don't speak English as first language, so we have volunteer interpreters there. So most of the money goes for paying the part-time individuals, the mid-level providers, and then medical supplies like supplies, medications.
Is the patients that you see, Macon County citizens?
95+% are making it.
Okay, so in other words, Judge Woodford is going to another place.
In either clinic, we don't have a geographic boundary or limitation. Whoever gets there at sea, the boards have realized that geography is probably pretty much a limiting factor. They're not going to drive from Murphy. We're the westernmost free clinic in the state. We've had people drive actually from Murphy to be seen at the clinic. We get people from northeast Georgia that work in our community, whether it's Franklin or Highland, that come up from Gilroy. a certain percentage, or a small percentage. But in the Highlands Clinic, we see about 30% of our patients from the South Jackson County. And we fundraise for every cash.
But as he said, 94% of our patients are from Macon. Well, there are a few of them.
94 just from 2873. And then you have those from out there, if you live in outlying communities, it's probably closer to 95, maybe not.
Ms. Hermanson, at the end of the day, though, the reason that we need this money is to give it a base, like Linda said. It just gives you a base that shows that it will benefit the fundraising. You know, he shows that it's viable because it has not only support of this board, but we represent the folks of this community. And as more and more people have lost their, and all of us around this board, we have to all pay our health insurance for it. We all pay that, so we all have to. It's, you know, it's not cheap for a family. And a lot of them that lost their jobs went through the, you know, their unemployment rate went up. You can see the numbers at the clinic going because they lost their insurance. So,
I tell people, unfortunately, we're one of the few growing businesses around. And I say that because these are people who are falling through the cracks. That's why they call us a safety net provider. The catch and that don't get covered by Medicare, don't get covered by another type of program, can't afford health insurance, and employers can't afford to buy health insurance if you don't have that.
what struck me in conversation with the jury is the advocate before we do it. That's the work in aid, you know, with your
The dental industry is doing the same thing. Yes, my son is in dental school at Chapel Hill. He's volunteered 3 or 4. They have these big freestanding clinics. They do big things. They'll take the Civic Center National. Free things for people to come. They do dental work. They have 100 dentists. Same.
We did one in Holloway at Western University last year.
Help with that.
Yeah, that is amazing what they do. There's probably a bigger need for dental care for the uninsured low income than anything in the state. And there are very few clinics. The clinics are closest free clinic in the hours in the cashier. And they're covering about 5 county area. The largest percentage of the patients are coming from It's a great thing. They do it.
Well, this is, Mr. Chairman, this is what I want to bring before the board and let these folks tell you how important this community is and why that I certainly think that we should, you know, we can't do the 3 years. I mean, Linda will tell you, the jury will tell you, you know, it's got to have a base. This clinic will survive, and I think this is the only place we can get the base. We'll give them an avenue to fundraise. And if we can't do the 3 years, we'll do all we can. And it's up to this board to do that. But, we want to bring these folks forward that devote their time and energies to this and benefit the citizens of Macon County.
So we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Franklin.
Yes, sir.
Thank
I
you for
want to
being here.
say, I came out of retirement to take on this challenge, and the last job I had that I got paid for, I took over a alcohol drug treatment program in Wake County. Had a $2.5 million budget when I left. It had a $7 million budget. So I think we can pull this off.
We're not aspiring to that.
Yeah.
No, but all I'm saying there is that we have a board now, and hopefully some staff leadership that can help raise this money. Rotary clubs are getting behind us in a big way. So churches.
We'll make it work.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Jack, I guess we're at the point. Does anybody else have any questions about the budget? We haven't gone over. We've covered the main department. We hit the highlights. We've met 3 times. Is there anything else you want to ask about? Questions you have? Our next meeting, we're scheduled to meet next Tuesday, the 11th. Have a public hearing on the budget. Hear any kind of public comment on the budget. We can certainly make comments ourselves on the budget. And then we have talked about scheduling a meeting the next Tuesday, a week later, the 18th. And
Get everything.
and if you guys want to schedule a meeting in between that to discuss the public hearing, we can do that, or if you just want to wait.
We can do that, that might be a good idea. So legally, we can be, discuss this thing.
Right.
And,
My feeling would be, let's meet Tuesday, have the meeting, public hearing, and then maybe think about a Thursday meeting,
hash out that.
discuss the budget,
Anything else we want.
then we can meet the next Tuesday and take whatever action we have.
There's a couple items I just want to have clarified, and I don't want this guy, it's 8 o'clock.
We want to do that. Everybody agree with that schedule?
Yeah, if anybody wants to come by, I'll take whatever time you need to. If there's anything in there that
Well-
that you're not clear on that I can help.
I was gonna say, guys, we've
Let me know.
met for about 8 hours.
Just trying to make sure, it's the 11th is our regular scheduled meeting, right?
And we're-
That's
and that's-
tonight.
And the 11th is gonna be the public hearing,
And then we're gonna meet on the following Thursday,
the 13th,
the 13th,
and we make that at 6.
6 o'clock.
5:30 is a little hard for me.
6:30, okay, 6 o'clock.
It's a call meeting, so we can call it whenever. It doesn't matter. I'd say 6 or later, 6 or 2:30. 6. All right, so Board of Commissioners, 6 o'clock on the 13th. We'll meet, that will be to discuss the budget, public hearing, that kind of thing. Public hearing's on the 11th. And then we will meet on the 18th, which is the following Tuesday. And we will potentially take action on, I'll just say potentially take action on the budget at that meeting.
On what time?
The 18th, I'd say 6.
6 o'clock, what about June 11th, what time?
It's regular.
That's
regular
6
meeting.
o'clock. 6 o'clock.
West Main.
So we'll make 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. And I'll say, reiterate what Jack said. If anybody's got any specific questions, I'd encourage you to give to Jack personally. I've done that myself. I've met with him actually a couple times on the budget, some things I didn't understand. He's helped me a lot, so feel free to do that on your own.
Let's hope for the best, and I say, sometimes we have 2 people public hearings. We might have 50 to but if we have a short public hearing, do we talk about it if we have time?
Sure.
Depending on how big the public hearing, sometimes
Sure, we can do that.
Sometimes nobody shows up, sometimes everybody shows up.
It's up to the board. If we have a fairly short meeting on the 6th, I don't think we've got a lot for the agenda. Might do because we've been on this many times.
Well, I've got one I need to add.
So we could do away with the 13th meeting if we chose to. That'd be it.
All right,
All right.
motion adjourned.
Motion
No.
Yeah,
Recess.
let's wait a minute. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're going to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn.
That's me. Okay,
Yeah, that's a regular meeting.